Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
In today's podcast, we're covering the Cartoon Network series Regular Show.
Yes, finally, this is another one of those series that we've waited so long to cover, and we don't know why.
Right.
But this hilariously surreal show was created by JG Quintel, and it follows the antics of Mordecai and Rigby, two slackers who work at the park and turning every mundane activity into the most bizarre mishaps in history.
Yes, and before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notification buttons on future podcasts and one-of-us videos.
And if you haven't already, watch our review on the Regular Show movie.
Yes.
Which is separate from the series, and it was fantastic.
Right.
So I can't believe we're just covering this now. This ended up being one of our favorite shows of all time on Cartoon Network. Well written, hilarious, fun, unbelievable adventures, great voice cast, strange but effective animation, and lots of background covering on DVDs showing storyboards and things like that.
Right.
It's just a fantastic show. Unfortunately, they didn't put out any seasons beyond season 3.
Yeah, and we were expecting more even after the show was over, but it seemed like Cartoon Network dropped interest in it after it was over, and this is nothing new. Once the show was done, they drop in, they're on to the next show, or they take off their show for more Teen Titans Go.
Unfortunately, we own seasons 1 through 3, what was available, and they're really great. And if you are familiar with this show, you'll know that in 8 seasons, you have a ton of favorite episodes. It is impossible almost to narrow down what your favorite episodes are because there's just so many.
Right. 8 seasons and a movie. It's almost hard to believe. And it was one of the longest running Cartoon Network shows at the time. It was only beaten out by Adventure Time, which had, I believe, 9 seasons. So, we originally got into the show around the time it actually first came out. We didn't watch it like much later after it was out.
Gravity Falls.
Right. We actually did watch it around the time it premiered, and I actually saw it first when they were doing sort of a summer thing with having that come out. And I thought it was hilarious as I got the entire premise. And I showed it to Mom when they had the pilot up on YouTube when we got greenlit.
She said, I want you to watch this and tell me what you think. She didn't tell me anything about it. And I remember watching it and like, okay. And I went through it and I watched it. And then do you remember what I said to you? He said, well, how do you like it? You remember what I said to you?
He said, rock, paper, scissors, an evil game.
Like, I love it. I couldn't believe this off-kilter, absolutely bonkers episode really supplied something that I didn't know I needed. I didn't know I needed Regular Show, but I did. And I think one of the most surprising things for me was when I learned that JG Quintel, this was his real actual speaking voice. Yeah. And Rascal said, I said, who does this voice? JG Quintel, the writer. Oh, great. What's his regular voice like? That is his regular voice. No, it can't be his regular voice. Yes, it's his regular voice. I didn't believe her until we saw an interview, and I was just sitting there like, you're kidding me? Oh my God. It was unbelievable. But he created memorable characters, and voicing Mordecai is one of the best things he could have ever done because there's no one who sounds like Mordecai anywhere in the history of animation, and this was his actual voice. Right. So it was brilliant. And do you know, or because you are the master of information, what inspired him to create Regular Show?
Well, he originally had 2 short films he created in college, and they were 2 totally separate things. One was called The Naive Man from Lollyland, and actually had Pops, that's where he came from. And then he and Sam Marin, who were already friends at the time, were voicing the characters. And then another short film he made was 2 in the AM PM, which was not allowed to be aired on TV. It had to be online exclusively because in that one, the 2 of them play 2 store clerks who are out at a convenience store working real late into the night and trying to stay awake, and the 2 of them actually start taking some substances, and the other one didn't know this was a substance, and when they start tripping out, one turns into a blue jay, one turns into a gumball machine, and that's where the characters came from. And they start hallucinating all these weird things are happening in their store, and that's where regular shows format came from.
Awesome. And I love hearing when people come up with these wonderful, creative ways of expressing things that they've experienced and sharing with us through stories. And you can tell that even though some of these things are absolutely unbelievable, some of these things have happened to him.
Which he said.
You can tell that, okay, there's a story behind this, a real life story behind this.
Yes.
He reminds me a lot of Mike Judge, who's done King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead, in terms of having that quality where he's taking the real life experiences and making them into something enjoyable and crazy and hilarious.
Yes.
And putting his own soul into it, not only in writing but also in voicing characters. And characters, this cast is. You've got some of the most memorable characters, again, in animation history.
It's the cast ever.
You mentioned Mordecai and Rigby. You mentioned Mordecai's a blue jay and Rigby's a raccoon.
Right.
And Rigby is dumb as all hell. He's just dumb. But he and Mordecai are great friends. Mordecai's not too bright either.
Right.
But somehow he's brighter than Rigby.
Yeah. And ironically, Rigby doesn't get any better in terms of his intelligence and attitude until the 7th season when he decides he wants to go back to college and get a degree. And that ends up becoming a big source of development for him, which we'll get into later. The other characters you got?
Now, before that, I have to say with Rigby, he starts off and you're kind of like, what's wrong with this guy? You kind of don't like him, sort of, in the beginning.
Yeah.
But the more you got to more episodes in season 1, you like them both. And you like seeing the character growth that Rigby, as you mentioned, did go through toward the end of the series, especially in the movie.
Right.
And I like how he started off like not too likable, because you said there's this stereotype of how raccoons are, and it's kind of like JG Quintel went with that, but then he showed, hey, there's more to Rigby, and Rigby can grow,
right,
and you ended up liking him. So I think that was a great way of taking a character and an animal that has this backstory and stereotype and making him to something positive.
Right.
It took a while, but yes, it became positive.
Right.
Then, as you mentioned, there's Pops.
Yes, Pops, good show, jolly good show.
And Pops is very old. He and his dad.
Yeah, and you don't realize it until they start showing you the years. And like, oh gosh, it's over 100.
And you can't help but love Pops.
Yes.
He is just clueless. As old as he is, he's clueless. Clearly, he's never been married. He doesn't have any children.
Right.
So he still has this childlike innocence in how he views the world. And part of his innocence is because nostalgia is clouding his mind, and he's lost back in the time period he grew up as a kid.
Yes.
And he's just a sweetheart, and you love him.
Right.
And he's voiced by Sam Marin too, right?
Yes, Sam Marin does 3 voices, and Pops is probably the best one out of the 3.
And Rigby.
Yeah. He voices Benson.
Okay.
And the another one.
Okay. Well, since you mentioned Benson, that's another character, the Gumball Machine.
Yes.
He has anger issues.
Yes, all because of Mordecai and Rigby. And every time they slack off or don't do something, he threatens them the same every single time. Do it, do so-and-so, or you're fired. Do so-and-so, or you're fired. Save the world, or you're fired. And it's like somehow they don't get fired. And when they do get fired, the girl jumps back before the episode's over. So it's like, you can't fire Mordecai and Rigby.
And you think he's got this boring life, his crazy personality, and as the show goes on, you find out that Benson has lived.
Right.
And he has actual backstory, and he's actually done some really incredible, amazing things, even though right now he's managing the park, and you think there's nothing else to him.
Right.
So I love the way that you get his backstory revealed season by season, and you find out he's not so much with just a stick up his butt. He really can be fun, and he's really lived, and
right,
can be outgoing. You just have to drag it out of him.
Right.
When he's not turning his gumball machine red in anger.
Right.
And then, of course, you got Skips.
Yes.
Voiced by the incomparable Mark Hamill.
Yes, we were surprised he was in. And Skips is immortal, so he's been around actually way longer than Pops. He's been around since, I believe they said, the 1700s. So he still works at the park all these centuries later. It makes you wonder about things. And he basically is like the handyman and a groundskeeper and the guy you go to when stuff really goes wrong, and he knows the answer to just about 99% of every problem that they have.
Well, he should. He's lived long enough.
Right. There's been only a few times where he's either been wrong or he doesn't know the answer to something, and they're just really screwed if that happens.
And he actually has some strange friends on top of it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
He's another likable character who, of course, being alive that long, he's got a lot of things that have happened to him, including the love of his life, who he didn't end up with.
Right.
And he's dependable, he's reliable, he's loyal. Excuse me, you can't help but love him.
Right.
Then you've got Muscle Man, my mom.
Right. You know who else loves Muscle Man?
And he looks just weird.
It's like,
and that's Sam Marin, right?
Yes.
Okay. He looks weird. His girlfriend looks just like him. You don't know what he's supposed to be. I don't know if he's supposed to be human or some type of alien or character, because he ends up finding a woman that looks just like him, unbelievably. And he's loud and obnoxious, but like Skip, he's loyal.
Yeah.
He likes to pull pranks and just do things that can be mean, but he's loyal, and you can count on him to help you when you're in a pinch.
Right.
Even if he complains, even if he holds it over your head later, you can depend on him.
Right. And his best friend, high five goes.
Yes, high five. And that's brilliant. There's a ghost that looks like a hand, and he's white and he floats.
That's
and
it.
It's like, what?
It's like, how does that work in this world? And that's pretty much the whole cast until they get to season 4 when they actually...
high five.
JG.
Okay.
It was someone else at first and they got JG instead. And then in season 4 they actually end up having a new character added.
But before that, we have to mention Margaret.
Oh yes, Margaret and Eileen, who work at the coffee shop, and Mordecai's loving Margaret, so they go there almost every day.
And Margaret became one of the most hated characters on the show.
After a while.
JG had her break up with him, go to college, and then act stuck up.
Yeah.
One of the hated characters on the show.
Right, I was like, alright, that was probably one of the worst parts of the show.
But before that, she was well liked, and you found out that her dad is human and her mom is
a cardinal.
A cardinal. It's like,
and her whole family's cardinal except the dad, and nothing is wrong with this. It's like, okay.
And Eileen is some type of mole.
I think she's a mole or a beaver or something, yeah.
And she is smart, and she's Margaret's friend. So you know how this is going to go if you haven't seen it. She ends up with Rigby, Eileen ends up with Rigby, and Margaret ends up with Mordecai. And again, becomes hated once she dumps him.
Right.
Now we can get to later when they bring in one of the most memorable characters that became an additional character.
Yeah.
And that's Thomas.
Yes. When they had the 4th season premiere. Yes. And voiced by Roger Craig Smith. When they introduced him, at first it was just like he was the normal addition. Everyone else was weird and surreal, and he ended up just working, and you wonder, how'd you get this job? And I think for a while people thought we were going to like him because there was nothing to stand out. He was the normal one. And then that ended up being a charm. And people liked that he was just the normal nerdy one out of the group. And for some reason he got a fan base out of that. And then when they get to the 5th season, he gets his own special, and it can start hinting about things about him because you really didn't know much about him. You didn't really know. It was fine, but then things were kind of coming about him that were kind of odd, like when he was infiltrating another part flawlessly, and you kind of wonder how the heck did he pull this off. Well, they were foreshadowing for his own special called The Real Thomas, where you found out he was a Russian spy, and they were going to take the part and try to put it in Russia as a thing to try to get back at the States. And then he became an absolute badass, and people loved him more.
You were always this cool. I kept saying, you were always this cool.
Why couldn't you be this cool before you left?
But that was one of the great additional temporary characters,
Mm-hmm.
and you were sorry to see him leave because after that he had to leave.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of like wanted in both countries now, so you can't stay anyway.
And then you got to see family members throughout the series. And one of the best things about this series is that they had dedicated holiday episodes that were just as hilarious as the regular episodes.
Yes, they had a couple Valentines. They had an annual Halloween special called Terror Tales of the Park. And they had Christmas specials every year after their first one.
And the biggest, most impressive, and most memorable is the Thanksgiving special.
Right, which was a surprise.
Chewing on freedom.
Which was a surprise because shows really don't make Thanksgiving episodes anymore. So it was a shock to see regular show was doing Thanksgiving. And from then we thought they're going to do every single holiday. They didn't. They did Valentine's, Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving. No Easter, no St. Patrick's. They had kind of sort of Father's Day, kind of sort of Mother's Day, but they kind of stopped after a little bit because it was like, how many scenarios can you really make crazy out of some of these?
But the second memorable, I would say, would be the Christmas episode. And the first one that featured Ed Asner as Santa Claus, as a badass Santa Claus.
Yes.
And that is one of the best holiday episodes ever.
Yes, we watch it every year, and everyone on Cartoon Network always loves to watch that special. It's like up there with Charlie Brown. And then you had, like we said, the movie, which came about, I think, the 6th or 7th season. And about this time, you could tell regular show was changing. Mm-hmm. The animation was getting better. They were still having crazy episodes, but the show was changing. And this is when a few people started to kind of fall out with regular show. Didn't hate it, but there were things that were not the same as they were in the first 5 seasons. Like,
well, it's called character growth.
Well, nothing was wrong with character growth.
Exactly.
That was fine.
Exactly.
Nothing should be wrong with that. It was, as you said, Margaret breaking up Mordecai was the biggest.
I agree with them
was
on
the
that.
first and biggest strike. Then they had him get over her and develop. Then he was CJ. And then CJ got upset over everything. And that became a thing. The shipping was beginning to be really overbearing in too many episodes.
Dated the girl he always wanted to date. The power.
Right.
If he'd done that, he would have been fine.
Right. And then they started having more episodes that were more, I guess, trying to be deeper. And it was more with the concept of growing up. Like, they were slackers and they got work out of every single time and they still got away with it. Well, they started having episodes where they would start to take responsibility and they didn't want to slack off as much. They were thinking about their futures, and
that's probably was JG's way of letting us know he was going to end the series.
Yeah.
And we all just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
But I have to say that one of the best things that they did that a lot of series don't do is they actually showed you how the series, the characters ended up into the future.
Yes, at
it
the
was
end.
like a progression, a sped up progression.
What they say, a time skip.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the worst part of it was them killing off Pops. I hated that.
Yeah, they had this.
I hated it.
Yes, during the final season, they had the whole season take place in space, where they were sending parks to space as like their sort of makeshift NASA program. It was really weird, and the entire season took place in space. And then it turned out Pops was an alien, and his destiny was to save the universe from his brother, which was an anti-Pops, which I think was a Dragon Ball reference. And the whole crew was trying to prepare him to fight him and save the universe. But in the end, Pops sacrifices himself, and the universe is saved, but he's gone. It was like, oh, this is Voltron all over again.
Yeah.
And they had to just kind of, move on with their lives. And as you said, you see them grow up. They get jobs. So all of them get married, have kids. They come together as a reunion in the park. And you see Skips is still there. And you see, like, wow, they are having full lives after the show was over, which is great to see. It was just bittersweet to see Pops wasn't going to be there with them during that growth and seeing them grow up.
So, I understand why they didn't have Skip since he's immortal. Why couldn't he save the universe and then nobody would have had to be taken out?
Right.
But hey, it was his show and he wrote it like he wanted it to be. Now, those things being said, again, this is one of the best shows Cartoon Network ever had. 8 seasons and a movie, and we still would love to have seen more.
Yeah.
But as you said, once Cartoon Network washes their hands with you, that's it.
Yeah, they make room for more Teen Titans.
And
Go.
there are no reruns being shown, so I don't even know if you can stream regular show. And it's unfortunate that you're not being able to watch this show again. There's questions online, especially on Twitter. What shows would you like to watch all over again, like you've never seen it? For me, regular show would be one of those shows.
Right.
I would watch it from the beginning and just enjoy it from beginning to end, non-stop, seeing all the episodes in the movie.
Yeah.
Now, if you have done that, like we've done, and watched regular show, let us know what you think in the comments below. We hope you love it. We hope you don't hate it. We hope you miss it as much as we do. And if you haven't seen it, you can get seasons 1 through 3, but that's it. If it's available to stream, let us know in the comments below.
Right. And if y'all don't already, subscribe for updates with the videos of favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for sticking with us through this. We really should have done this years ago.
Yes.
And I'm just really glad that we finally got to do regular show. Especially for all of you out there that are as big fans as we are. And let us know who your favorite characters are. And what your favorite episodes are, if you can choose, because I can't.
Yeah,
because there's too many.
There's like over 200 episodes.
I can't choose. There's just so many. And thank you for sharing our joy and love of this series. If you have something you want us to cover, let us know in the comments below as well.
Yes. So, thanks so much for watching. I'm Rask Entertainment.
I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace and keep enjoying your summer.
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, give it to